has been sent. Good to go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 117 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you on another Wednesday night, 7:21 p.m., October 26th. Welcome back into the show. The Patriots didn't do things well this week, so that stinks. Unfortunately, we won't, have a easy win like we expected to talk about. The Celtics are off to a hot start. The Bruins are still off to a hot start. So things are overall going good, but a tough loss for the Patriots this week. But before we get to all the Patriots stuff in NFL Week 7 thoughts and discussions and moments of the week, how are we doing tonight on this fine Wednesday night, Ryan?
Well, minus the thing you mentioned about the Patriots laying an absolute egg and, throwing up a complete stinker on Monday Night Football. I'm glad I waited all day for that yesterday and took a day off from work thinking I could watch the game in peace and have some fun and enjoyment, but that didn't happen. Other than that, I'm doing great. We got to celebrate my favorite day every year a couple nights ago. That was fun. We'll get into that in the moments of the week. If people know me and have listened to the show, they know what specific day I'm talking about. Like you said, the Bruins, I don't know, is surprisingly playing well. I mean, I don't think you and I thought they were going to be bad, but definitely the start they've gotten off to is a little bit of a surprise with the guys they've had out and just again how well they've played. And yeah, the Celtics, they take a bit of a road hit yesterday, hit a bit of a roadblock with their first loss of the season against the Bulls. Not a great time to be a New England sports fan playing Chicago teams, but they're still going well, as you said. So nothing too much to complain about other than that great Patriots game we watched last night.
Yeah, the best, wasn't it?
Or 2 nights ago. It was, two nights ago.
Same difference.
Yep. Monday Night Football throws me off for the rest of the week.
Yeah, Monday Night Football typically just isn't good either, which, it's kind of typical. Like Monday and Thursday, more often than not, you're going to have a bad football game, which kind of stinks given, what the league wants. But moments of the week before we get into football and hockey. Speaking of hockey, I feel like this kind of flew under the radar, and I'm surprised it wasn't a bigger story because I feel like a lot of people didn't know about one part of this story, and that was Rhett Pitlick, who's a forward for University of Minnesota's men's hockey team, scoring a goal at North Dakota, so on the road, and throwing his stick into the stands as a celebration, to which the fan responded by throwing the stick back. He got a 10-minute misconduct for that, and North Dakota scored 3 goals while he was in the box.
Jesus. Put that in perspective for me. Was it basically like a bat, I guess the equivalent to a bat flip with a guy was
you remember Jack Hughes doing it last year?
No, I do not.
He just launched it into the stands as a celebration. Okay. Like something you do with like Jack Hughes did last year. OT winner, big goal.
Okay, yeah, I guess that makes more sense then in that situation, but not in this case, apparently. Seeing that there was more time on the clock.
Yeah, 3 goals, the 10-minute misconduct while he was in the box. That's a real tough look for like a kid on a big name program, a very talented program this year. Just thought it was worth mentioning. I feel like a lot of people saw that oh, that's kind of funny. The fan threw it back, haha. But I didn't find out till the day after that he got a 10-minute misconduct and they scored 3 goals during it.
Such a bad look.
I just had to put it in and mention it here because it's just come on, that's just real tough. But your moment of the week isn't so tough. It's actually quite the opposite.
It's awesome. It's a day that, in my opinion, I don't know if you hold it as near and dear to your heart as I do.
The drum all year. Who's been beating the drum?
That's true. You did,
to anything for them.
Yep, that's true. You were the one. But I put this right up there with Christmas and Thanksgiving and my birthday for the things I like most. The one day a year when it comes. Yankee Elimination Day was celebrated late Sunday night, maybe Monday morning. I think the game got over at probably 1:00 in the morning or close to it. The Yankees, they got swept out of the playoffs, swept out of the ALCS, as Pedro Martinez put it in the post-game show. The Houston Astros are fully and completely their daddies because they just can't seem to beat the Houston Astros in the playoffs. This series especially could not get out of their own ways with the mistakes they made. I found it funny. I don't know if you saw any of it on Twitter, but a lot of people were up in arms, and I think rightfully so, because this is just how pathetic the Yankees are when it comes to stuff like this. In order to try to come back from 0-3 down, of course, the Yankees very famously were the team that gave up a 3-0 lead in the playoffs in the ALCS. They FaceTime David Ortiz the day of their game 4 loss to the Astros pregame to try to, get his insight onto, how you come back from, being down through 0-3, stuff like that. I didn't know about the mental health coach. I saw this from the Yankees play-by-play guy, Michael Kay, I think it was. He was ranting about it the other day on Twitter. I didn't know their mental health coach played a video of the Red Sox comeback in 0-4. I thought it was just strictly the FaceTiming David Ortiz. And apparently that came from Eduardo Perez of ESPN. He was the one that told Aaron Boone. So, maybe you put him into that category of some blame as well. But the showing the Red Sox come back to Yankee players, I know none of the Yankees on the roster were on that team, but still it just sets such a bad look. And again, just shows how utterly pathetic, let alone just, again, you get swept out of the playoffs. Then this comes out. It just shows again that the Yankees are complete choking dogs when it comes to the playoffs, whether, like you said, that's Aaron Judge hitting 62 home runs in the regular season, or all the trade deadline additions they make, getting Benintendi, and Lou Trevino, and I can't think of the pitcher they got from the Athletics as well. They're big starters
who didn't play.
Yep, Efros had to get Tommy John surgery. So any moves they made, they all backfire. They all blow up in their face. It's even sweeter. The other day, I don't know if you saw it, the Yankees are going to retain both Boone and Brian Cashman. So that's another year we don't have to worry about the Yankees
every year.
Yep. Every year. Someone on Twitter had it good. They reminded me of you talking about the Jacobs family with the Bruins. It's like they don't care what they do. They're in it just to sell playoff tickets and put people in the seats. They kind of said the same thing about Brian Cashman. It's like he's just going to put another team out there that's just good enough to compete, get to the playoffs, maybe win a division, and then just come up empty like they always do. So again, like as much as we'll laugh about it, it's good to see that happening too, because again, I've said it since day one. I never thought Aaron Boone was the guy to lead this team, was the right decision. He's literally the definition to me of a one-hit wonder. And again, they just keep making mistake after mistake. He leaves Nestor Cortez in way too long, was hurt, let him pitch to Payne, gives up a home run. So just complete mistake after mistake in that series. And everybody except for Harrison Bader and Anthony Rizzo showed up. Or didn't show up rather. So your thoughts on Yankee Elimination Day or anything else that kind of in that series? Or we're not going to do a ton of baseball tonight. Like you said, there's more football and hockey to get after. But if you had to do a quick and early World Series prediction, I think I know what direction you're going to lean in with some specific players on one roster. But your just thoughts overall.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really funny if Judge leaves after making the last out.
Yep.
From
that would be something. I didn't even think of that.
Like he had a pretty rough postseason too. Just didn't really do a whole lot.
Yep, he was horrible. He had I think 1 or 2 home runs the entire playoffs. Didn't do anything in the championship series. So a very rough showing for a guy that, again, we'll give credit where credit's due, had a phenomenal MVP caliber regular season, but that didn't matter in the end because now they're gone.
Yeah, it's just really bizarre. It's not because it's come to be expected, but that they're bringing the same crew back managerially. You think you'd have some sort of light bulb go off and say, hey, maybe it's time for a change of philosophy.
Something like you said, it's year after year, it's the same thing. You get bounced way earlier than you probably should have. Let's be honest, that Yankees team probably should have made the World Series. On paper, the talent level wise, it's close with the Astros, but again, the season that Judge had and everything, and just that's what it came down to. He carried him in the regular season and couldn't do it in the playoffs, and nobody else really stepped up around him. So,
yeah, I mean, it's a real shame.
I know, right? We're going to lose sleep over it. I don't know how we're going to watch the World Series when that comes on Friday. How do you get up for a Phillies and Astros World Series? I would much rather it be the Yankees. Yeah, it's really tough.
I am in on the Fightins. I am on the Fightins.
They are one of the scrappiest playoff teams I have seen and can remember in quite some time. They are never out of a game. You saw that in their clinching game. I was trying to flip back and forth, I think, with all the football games that were going on, trying to keep tabs on that. I know the Padres obviously fought back to take a lead, and then Bryce Harper hits a big home run in the 8th inning. He's been excellent. He worth every penny, and is making that contract stand out and obviously be really well. They're never out of a game, and I think that's what makes them so dangerous. Again, maybe the Astros have them when it comes to talent on paper, but you can't ever count that team out. It doesn't matter what inning you're in. How we saw it in one of those games against the Padres. They go down 4-0 in the first inning. They put up 4 and win the game later on. So it's a really fun team to watch, led by, of course, Kyle Schwarber, and of course Dave Dombrowski. Find it funny those two guys are in a World Series, and the Red Sox are sitting at home with one of the better farm systems on the league, and have some questions this offseason. So funny how that works out. You let those two guys go when they get a chance to win a ring this year. But I digress.
Team of Destiny vibes.
So I was just going to ask them, they're your pick, I'm assuming, to win the whole thing?
Yeah, I'm going to go Phillies in 7. I want to say 6
right there with
just to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like see it, the Yankees the Phillies surprise some people, but yeah, once Harper hit that big home run, I was like, yeah, Team of Destiny vibes. I'm stamping it.
Yep, it's got that feel.
One of those galvanizing moments to create that type of like feel around a team.
Mm-hmm.
Like it got to a point where the 2018 Red Sox got like that. Like
well, you just kind of knew like this team's gonna just run through a wall. No one's beating them. Like that's what I mean. Every time they need a big hit, they seem to get one or need a big pitching performance. Or
like Bregman has some big hits. Jordan is always like ripe for a big hit whenever they need it.
Mm-hmm.
Just to name 2 guys in particular. It's gonna be fun. Like I can't say I expected a World Series really close to this, but it's 2 like interesting teams for a variety of different reasons. Like there's no shortage of interesting storylines. So
no, that's what you said. They have both teams have guys coming in red hot. With you mentioning Harper and Bregman, the pitching for both sides has been excellent. Verlander's still shoving it at his age, and obviously coming off of a Tommy John surgery. Nola's been excellent along with Wheeler for the Phillies, and then both teams' bullpens have been lights out, which is a huge surprise because the Phillies, that's always been the Achilles heel of that team, is their bullpens have been bad. And that's kind of always been the knock on Dave Dombrowski, is he's never been able to build a bullpen. But this year, everything has kind of gone the opposite direction. And the Phillies, being the very last team to make the playoffs, basically the 6th seed, if you want to look at it that way, getting to the World Series is a hell of a run. And I'm right there with you. They seem like a team that is just destined to win the whole thing. So like you, I have them winning in 7.
We shall see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Should be fun.
Absolutely. I don't like to root against Christian Vasquez, and I like Dusty Baker. I like to see him get a World Series, but that can wait another year because I am all in on Kyle Schwarber and the Phillies going all the way.
Me too. I would like to see Schwarber win, but if it comes down to Vasquez getting another ring, I'm really not gonna have a problem with it. So
yep,
it feels kind of weird to say, but like it's whatever,
Yep, you move on and get on with your life.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So football. I was thinking we could run Bruins first because there's not much to talk about, but I think football is the bigger subject this week, given how things went.
If this was right, if this was a normal game where like you and I expected that the Bears came in and the Patriots blew them out in prime time, then I'd say sure, let's do the Bruins because there's not a whole lot to talk about, with the Patriots dominating the Bears, but it was the complete opposite. And of course, there was a huge gaffe and a huge mistake by the Patriots in this game that we'll get to. I know you and I maybe have some differing opinions on, which doesn't always happen here, but I think this is going to be one of the stronger stances that you and I take, differing unless you've come off your Bailey Zappi stance. I don't know if I saw your prediction for how the game went or not, or it's going to go or not. But we'll start with, of course, the Bears and the Patriots. We'll leave the Jet stuff in a little bit. Starting, of course, with the studs and duds. As always, I will kick it off with my studs. I had Ramondre Stevenson in this game. Tough to pick studs with how it went down. But Stevenson was good. 11 rushes, 39 yards. Didn't do a whole lot on the ground. He did a lot more in the passing game. 8 receptions, 8 targets, 59 yards. Did have a rushing touchdown and did play the majority of the snaps with Damian Harris back. I thought maybe you'd see a little bit more Harris coming back. Only played 9 snaps. That was 17% of them. Stevenson from here on out to me is the clear-cut starter. I had a buddy of mine say maybe he thought Harris was on a bit of a pitch count or a snap count to make it obviously more football related. Were you surprised at all that Harris didn't play as much, or kind of the way the game panned out, you didn't really want to have him come back coming off an injury, play more than maybe he had to?
I think we're just getting with every week closer to Ramondre Stevenson taking over as the number 1 guy.
Okay.
He's proved it. Yeah, I mean, it really does make you think. We've had the storyline in the back of our heads all year. Like, is this the future? Like, are they planning on walking from Damian Harris in the future? It really seems that way, more and more every week. Why else would he be like kind of worked out of the fold a little bit here? It's
definitely being phased out, it seems like.
Yeah, it sucks because like he's really good, and him and Mac are like best friends, and he's a good guy to have, and but just the business, I guess. And
yeah,
Bill works in his own ways. My number 3 stud was Anthony Jennings, who you have as your number 2, so we can both just hop in here.
Absolutely.
6 tackles, a sack for 15 yards, a pass deflection, and a forced fumble. Definitely the most active we've seen Anthony Jennings in a game so far in his young career.
Mm-hmm.
And both of us, texting with each other, had noticed it and pointed it out to each other. So definitely worth mentioning. He was all around it, especially there was one drive in particular. I think he was like in real close to proximity, getting, through the offensive line of the Bears, like 3 plays in a row. He was just like relentless. I think this is a step ahead for Anthony Jennings.
Yeah, like you said, I have him at 2 right there with you. I thought it was definitely his breakout game for the Patriots and a guy that we had high hopes for when he was drafted, because of the I guess the scouting report he had and the high hopes he had for the type of motor he had and how good of a player he looked in college. Hadn't really seen that in the NFL with injuries and stuff like that, and just hadn't gotten the playing time until Monday night. And like you said, took advantage of it with the sack and the forced fumbles. You wish you had it in the outline as we get kind of into the game stuff later on. But the fact that the Patriots had 5 forced fumbles or whatever it was and couldn't get any of them, a little discouraging.
That's insane.
Yeah, can't remember if probably there was ever a time that happened in a game, just with how wacky that game was last night. But yeah, Jennings looked really, really good. And, I hope to see more of him moving forward because he's one of those, it looks like speedy linebacker guys that they've been missing, year after year. You might have one here if you can keep this guy on the field and keep him productive.
Absolutely. So back to my number 2 stud now. Another linebacker, Juwan Bentley, 6 tackles, 4 assisted tackles, and 10 combined, and 1 tackle for loss. Pretty good game.
Absolutely. He's another guy you can always count on, I feel like. Maybe, the game before you didn't hear a ton of his name called. He might have been dealing with an injury or might have left the game with an injury. But good to see him bounce back here and play well in a game where the defense got lit up. And, as we have in the studs, and to kind of spoil it with our number 1 linebacker, you pick all, 3 linebackers in this game. Yep. That was really the only position that fared well against the Bears on defense. Our number 1's consensus. Once again, Matt Judon, 4 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, 3 quarterback hits, and of course had that deflection that ended up being the Miles Bryant interception that, like I texted you, I'm giving all the credit there to Judon, not to Bryant, because he basically fielded a punt. And I don't like Miles Bryant, so I'm not going to give him a ton of credit. Judon was excellent. It was, like I said, was really one of the only few guys, one of the 3 linebackers that really showed up in this game. Night in and night out, week in and week out, rather, he's been great.
Yeah, and he leads the league in sacks. Kind of low key. Like,
that sounds familiar. No one's talking about that, but you hope it's not trending the same way it trended last year. But he's had a great start so far, as you just mentioned, leads the league in sacks. I'm pretty sure last year he was up there in sacks too. So hopefully he can keep things going, because he's, like I said, a week in and week out, he's been the one really consistent guy on defense, or the one standout.
Yeah, him and Dietrich Wise, definitely.
Yeah, I was Dietrich Wise. That's true. Him and
yeah,
the 2 of them.
Matt Judon currently has a 1.5 sack lead on Nick Bosa and Micah Parsons, so it's saying a lot given how good
absolutely
Parsons in particular has been this season. Dorrance Armstrong is in this list as well, in the top 10 who've never even heard of on this.
I was gonna say, I've heard of is it Teron Armstead? Are they related at all? Do we know?
Wait, did I say Armstead or Armstrong?
Oh, I don't. Yeah, I might have misheard you on that one.
No, I need to check.
All right. As you look that up, I'll jump.
The wrong guy. Armstrong.
Okay, so I was talking about the wrong guy. Yep. All right. I'm glad we cleared that up then. So on to the duds, because the duds are the more fun thing to talk about. Let's be honest here. I'm going with the nerdy pick. I have Jake Bailey as my number 3 dud. He had 4 punts in the game for 160 yards, a net punt of 31.8, 0 punts within the 20. And, maybe that wasn't the story of the game because the Bears just dominated all together on every, facet of the game. But Jake Bailey was horrible in this game. Let's be honest here. His first punt goes for 44 yards, puts the Bears on the 34. That drive goes 8 yards for a field goal. They lead 3-0. Second punt was a shank for 36 yards, puts them on the 38 of the Bears. 7 plays later, they go for a touchdown to put them up 10-0. The third punt went for 44 again. That put them on the 35. Another field goal for the Bears, 26-14. And then the fourth punt, another absolutely horrible punt. I think it was one of the low line drives that Chicago's punt returner was able to return pretty well. Puts the ball at the 34 for Chicago, a touchdown on 8 plays later to go up 33-14, which of course is where we ended. I talked about this a couple weeks back when I had him on the duds list for the first time. It's kind of jarring how bad of a season he's had. I know no one's really talked about it because it's the punter. So you kind of let that one pass. But with as good as he's been over the years, this year's kind of been, glaring and jarring, whichever adjective you want to use. Not a great game from him. And again, the defense wasn't great, but Bailey never really put the defense in any great spots with, like I said, no punts, at the or behind the 20-yard line. So not a great showing from him.
Yeah, he's hasn't been good this year, straight up, and he wasn't good in this game.
Yep.
My number 3 dud, as you have, included with yours as well. I'm a little lower on them in the duds list though. Is Bill Belichick and the coaching staff, mainly because of the quarterback situation, how it was handled. Different reports on did players know this was going to happen or not? Jacoby Myers was not super pleased with it. I think Mike Onwenu said something along the lines it wasn't a big deal, or he knew somewhat about it before the game. And then
Stevenson was another guy too, I heard.
Matter.
Yeah.
It's they're focusing on the game. Not everybody needs to know. It's just really weird. I don't like miscommunication happening. So
not in this sense. And as you alluded to, that's, spoiler alert, my one. And that'll lead us in kind of to the bigger takeaway from the game, because that really was the biggest takeaway from the game. We can talk about how bad the defense was, but like you said, the decision to go with the quarterback carousel was a bit of a head scratcher. We'll get into that, as I mentioned, a little later. We'll jump into my number 2 dud. It's Trent Brown. I tweeted it out. I think I texted it to you maybe. The fact that Isaiah Wynn did not play, Trent Brown did not have to do his best Isaiah Wynn imitation. 2 holding penalties, 1 false start, a tripping penalty. I think 2 of his penalties got negated because they were offsetting. The Bears committed a penalty that's at the same time as, of course. But a horrible showing for Trent Brown. This is the guy you rely on as your left tackle, your blindside guy to protect your quarterback, and he was horrible in this game. Second game now where he's gotten beat by a pretty good edge rusher too, which is kind of jarring.
Edge rusher who just got traded today?
Yeah, how'd you like to be that guy that you get a huge win on Monday Night Football for the Bears, and then the next morning you wake up, you're traded to the Eagles, the best team in football right now, at least record wise. So pretty good showing there. A couple of tweets just to show, or one tweet to show how bad Trent Brown was. I think this was from Phil Perry. I don't have it in the outline, but he said his first 3 penalties came 9 plays into the game. And the Phil Perry one that was added on was game hadn't even reached 10 minutes yet, and Trent Brown had already had 3 penalties. So that's pretty bad for your left tackle who you're expecting to play better. He did not in this game.
Yeah, he did not. Joel Shapiro said, I feel like he's checked out. It kind of
looked like it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Felt like kind of week 1 vibes again with Trent Brown. So
yep. Any concern with him moving forward, or is it one of those games where nothing went right, so maybe he's feeling the effects of that, which I don't encourage that, or I'm not going to be, happy that he checked out halfway through the game if that was the case, but yeah, maybe it's just one of those things where.
Yeah, he's my number 1 dud, spoiler alert, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, he bounced back last time, so.
That's true. Last time we did, yeah, people kind of started getting on him. He performed pretty well the next game, so hopefully it's a flash in the pan type of thing.
Yeah, I have really no outright reason to believe it won't be, so okay. I'm not going to fret too much about it. My number 2 dud was Mac Jones, because he only threw the ball 6 times, but I thought he looked panicky, and he threw a bad pick into 4 players.
That's true. Yep. I won't excuse the pick. I'm right there with you. But
there seems to be varying reports on whether the ball hit the Skycam wire or not. I've seen a couple angles that make it look really obvious that it did, but apparently, according to ESPN, the video creates a false impression, and it was more than 50. The wire was more than 15 feet above the ball. So okay. I think it hit it. I think
that's what I
straight up lying and trying to
cover it. Yeah.
Make it seem like it didn't happen and fool people who don't have eyes. I do. So I saw it hit the wire, and I think it did. And they're just trying to make themselves or do some damage control rather. I thought the pick was bad. I thought he just didn't look good, and he kicked the guy in the dick.
And then that guy picked him off 2 plays later. So karma's a bitch, but
yeah, I don't know. I'm not in a good spot with Mac Jones right now. I'm nervous about him.
Okay, well, let's talk about it.
I'm much more confident in Bailey Zappi than.
Are you after? Oh, so this is where this is good then, because we'll transition. As I mentioned, my last dud is, as you had, is your 3, Bill Belichick and the coaching staff for just all the decisions. We'll start off with the offensive stuff, and you mentioned it, the quarterback stuff, because that's obviously the biggest takeaway from the game. And just, I don't know, I'm struggling to try to comprehend my thoughts, because I was obviously watching the game Monday night with my dad. I think I texted it to you too when I said it. Zappi came in, obviously looked great the first 2 drives, and I said on his first touchdown drive, I've never been more aggravated in my life on a Patriots touchdown, because You look at, and people have talked about this today too, the different looking play calls when it comes to Zappe and Mac Jones being out there. I think that was as apparent as it's ever been when Zappe came into the game. His first pass was a 4-yard, I think little short, quick over the middle pass to Jonnu Smith, then a 20-yard dump off to Ramondre Stevenson. And then he hits a wide open Jacoby Myers, who no one was in 15 yards of, almost overthrew. So I'm not going to, give Zappe a ton of credit for that touchdown pass. He almost overthrew Jacoby Myers, who you and I maybe could have hit with how open he was. But just that whole, scheme or that drive, I guess, in general, just looked completely different from what Mac Jones had gotten. And maybe it's to your point that, Jones was skittish, so maybe they don't trust him with that type of stuff. Or, he was not really, heading it or whatever. It was aggravating to watch because you sit there and I said it, I'm like, how can you not call these type of plays for Mac and, ease him back in, as you said? Instead, he goes out there and he looks skittish. And I think, too, that was in part that, we had the reports from Lisa Salters and Adam Schefter. Schefter was the pregame one saying that, the plan was to play Mac and Zappe at points, which I didn't understand right out of the gate. Like, I don't know, how do you build confidence in Mac Jones coming back off an ankle injury, his first game back, and you have the whispers in his ear, most likely, of, hey, if you mess up or, you don't look all that good, we're going to go to Zappe. Like, I don't know how that builds confidence in Mac Jones. Clearly it didn't, because like you said, he looked shaky right from the get-go. And then the fact that, again, Zappe played well his first 2 drives. The fact that Lisa Salters comes out at halftime and says Bill Belichick told her that Mac and Zappe are going to play in the second half. Like, this whole game plan was screwed up from the beginning, it seemed like. I thought, and, people have thought this too, listening to the Sports Talk Radio today, that maybe Bill Belichick overlooked the Bears and just kind of thought he'd get away with treating this like a preseason game. That's kind of the thought I had. Like,
did you see his comments earlier in the week? He talked about them for like 5 minutes straight about how
good that's just Bill Belichick,
how good the team is.
On that point, though, it's like, how do you go into this? Like, I've never seen this before. And again, I had this discussion with my dad where he's like, oh, teams have 2 quarterbacks. They're going to, obviously have one guy ready to go. I've never seen a team go into a game plan thinking that we're going to play both quarterbacks in the same game. Like this, I feel like Belichick treated this like it was a preseason game and thought maybe they could skate by the Bears. I know, like you just said, he talked them up, but he does that with everybody. So I'm not going to, take that to any, means or anything. But this, just the whole thing was messed up from the get-go. And then again, the fact that it just didn't look great. Jones throws the pick, as you mentioned, and then he pulls him right after that. And then after the game, he tries defending it, saying it wasn't, a performance benching or anything. The plan was for Jones to get his feet wet. Like, that's exactly the eye roll. That's complete bullshit. Like, no one's buying that. So the whole thing was just, I know I'm rambling here, but again, it's so tough watching the game to try to get my thoughts out and try to wrap my head around what was, the decision-making process, because it didn't sound like there was one. And then, maybe, as I said the other day, it's like, maybe if Bill game plan more defensively and focus more on that instead of trying to get 2 quarterbacks ready to play in the same game, you don't get blown out 33-14 on your home field on Monday Night Football. Like, the whole thing was just a complete shit show. Exactly.
Yeah, you're not giving your QBs a chance to really establish much rhythm when you're setting things up like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, at the same time, Matt, I think, with a short leash, I think, even though they deny it in this way, they understandably had on Mac coming back from an ankle injury. Like, it made sense to pull him, and, you want to get the ball rolling in this game, go with Zappe, who you're a little more comfortable with right now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the throw to Myers was a great catch, but definitely an overthrow. But I just, like, I know it's been a little while since Mac has played a full game, with the ankle injury, but I just, watching Zappe recently, feel more comfortable with him right now.
Even after the second half he had, because I feel like he got exposed in the second half a lot. Like, you saw his pitfalls.
Yeah, the second half wasn't great, but, like, I don't know. I need to see Mac compose it post injury for me to feel comfortable with him again, like I did going into the season, because, like, we've seen the last few weeks what Zappe's capable of. I think he's less of a one-read quarterback. I don't think he panics like Mac Jones does sometimes, and I don't know. I just think he's a little more composed. I want to see Mac look more like the QB from last year that we saw. That, like, you have to really worry about him panicking. Sure, he was still, like, kind of a one-read quarterback at times throughout last season. There's no doubt, but this year I feel like it's been more consistent, and he just needs to simplify things and, like, go through his progressions and not have his mind made up before a lot of these throws. Because every game he's played this year, there's been a lot of examples of it just looks like he has his mind made up, and that's just where he goes. But by default, and that's not good. That's not smart. It's not, it's chaotic football.
Do you put that on again? Because I really think it's the case. Do you put that on Jones just in his decision making, or do you put it on? Because again, I put it on the play calling. Like I can't get over how different it looked. Do you? Okay, you do.
I think the play calling definitely looked different, but like Mac makes the ultimate decision.
Makes it. That's true. Okay, so maybe you think he makes it look worse than originally is to set up. Again, with what happened, I just can't wrap my head around the decision making process. I can't buy. Again, because Belichick defended it, saying like you're going to do what's best for the team, because he was obviously asked if, it was the right decision to have Matt go if he wasn't 100%. Which, like, if we talked about this leading up to the game, you don't play Mac unless he's 100%, and clearly he looked fine out there from a running standpoint, a mobility standpoint. The ankle didn't seem to bother him. He was their leading rusher for 3 quarters. Obviously only played three snaps, or not 3 snaps, 3 drives. But was the leading rusher, it seemed like, for 2.5 quarters. So it's not like his ankle was hindering him there. So I don't know how you can sit there if you're Belichick and go, playing 2 quarterbacks or game planning for 2 quarterbacks was like you said, the best thing to set the team up for success. Because clearly it wasn't. Everyone, like you mentioned, Jacoby Myers didn't really know what was going on. Who was the lineman you mentioned? Somebody else, was it Onwenu? You said kind of was.
Yeah, I think it was on Onwenu too.
Yeah, I saw somebody say Stevenson really didn't get the decision, or didn't really know what was going on. So, there's obviously now this uncertainty. Myers, obviously, the quote from Andrew Callahan was Jacoby Myers sounded like he was bothered by Matt getting pulled. Quote, this is from Myers saying, quote, "It's tough to see somebody who works so hard get that kind of treatment. Not even the coaches, just everybody, the crowd, all of it. It was an ugly situation, in my opinion."
The crowd.
That was going to be my question. What was your take on that? Because I thought that made things look way worse. And I've seen some people say maybe Bill pulled the trigger a little bit too soon because he was listening to the Zappy chants and saying, okay, well, they want Zappy. We need to get a spark here. Let's put him in and see if he can do something. He did.
I don't think that's it. With the chants, but I just think it's crazy how fans can be. I know why they're spoiled, but fans can be so spoiled as to chant that shit.
I just don't get how fans. I mean, I get it. You're in the moment. The team's not playing well. You want some sort of spark, but going into the game, as soon as you heard Mac Jones was going to play, you're like, all right, let's see how this works. He hasn't played in 4 weeks, 3.5 weeks, whatever it was. So there's going to be some rust. And again, that's why if you wanted to play 2 quarterbacks, you should have, at least in my opinion, played it again, I thought this whole thing was a preseason game, the way he set it up, but play Mac for the first half. If he, grind it out with him. If he doesn't look great, then go to Zappy in the second half, or vice versa. Start with Zappy if he gets a big enough lead. If you can hold Chicago, maybe you have Jones finish the game out. The fact that you played Mac 3 drives, and then, of course, it ends in the interception, which makes it look even worse that you pulled him after that, because it makes it, again, look more like you benched him for performance. And I know you said, you only went 3 for 6 for 13 yards. I factor in a Damian Harris drop into that. He threw that ball right to him. So, maybe give, some credit there to Mac Jones. He made the right read, just Damian Harris couldn't handle a pass right to him. Of course, ran for a couple of
pass, though. I think I forget who it was more open downfield.
Was that I was just gonna that might have been the one with Devontae, same thing. So again, that feeds
Parker,
into your that feeds into your reads thought on Jones, and he kind of just doesn't really look to, he only looks to one place, doesn't kind of survey the field like you mentioned.
Ironically enough, I remember hearing from reading about Justin Fields when he was in college, that was one thing he struggled with at Ohio State at times, is read progressions and adapting on the fly. Joel Shapiro in the YouTube chat makes a good point with Jones and Zappy again. It looks like Jones doesn't trust his offensive line as much as Zappy does, and the fans think the Jones Zappy situation is going to be Bledsoe and Brady, which I think there are definitely fans out there that think that as well.
I think that too, but I think that's part of the problem of two different situations. We talked about that before too.
People are going to do that with we talked about that last week. People are going to do that with every QB battle that exists for the history of the Patriots ever.
Mm-hmm.
I think the whole Jones O-line and Zappy O-line thing is based on how the O-line has been for Mac Jones at times this year.
Gonna say Jones has gotten knocked out of not knocked out of 2 games, but obviously week 1 he's dealing with an injury because of his offensive line. You mentioned it. Trent Brown was horrible week 1. Isaiah Wynn's been horrible all year. So if you're Mac Jones, and as soon as the pressure starts or the pocket starts collapsing on you again, I feel like you're gonna get skittish because you've already been injured twice because of your offensive line. You just missed 4 weeks because of a hit you took because you couldn't get any protection. So I don't knock him for that. Again, the decision making, the interception was inexcusable. That was horrible. Even if it hit the wire or not, like you should just throw that ball away. Don't just chuck it up off your back foot. But again,
he
like
loves doing that too.
That's the biggest problem with him this year. Like I said that when it happened, I'm like, you got to stop throwing off your back foot, man, because it's the third or fourth time you've been picked off exactly like that. But again, I keep going back to it. Like I know we didn't have the greatest of performances, but to me, it's like not how could you, because you expect me to go out there and perform. But again, with the thought of if I screw up here, or at some point Zappy's going to come into this game, so I have to look good, or I have to, do everything right, can't make any mistakes. I can't imagine that was a great game plan for Mac going in. That's why I'm glad today that they said it. They got right in front of it after Bill's presser that, the Patriots are going to go with Mac Jones for Sunday, and that's it. He's going to be the starter. But again, just the whole decision-making process of that. I don't know why you thought starting, not you, of course, but Bill Belichick's playing two quarterbacks in one game was a smart decision. It's inexcusable. And now you kind of have to see if that decision kind of, I don't want to say breaks the locker room or just, but you know what I mean? Like going forward, this is going to be something that lingers. If Mac's confidence is going to be shaken, I have to think it's going to be a little bit, because again, if he keeps making mistakes down the line, you hope he gets out of it, but you have to think in the back of his mind that, Zappy is a proven capable quarterback from a short sample size. If I mess up, there's a very easy chance he could be right back in there and my job could be gone. So I don't see how that's a great mindset to put your starting quarterback in that played so well for you last year. Like that's crazy to me how quickly people forget what Jones was able to do last year. Like you said, about his reads this year. I thought we talked about that a lot last year. That was one of his best things, being able to survey the field and make the right decisions. You just don't lose that. So I think, again, it goes into the play calling. It goes into, what I'm going to put the blame on Patricia and Judge, what they're calling for him. Because again, I can't harp on it enough that I think there's a clear difference there. So just the whole thing, they set Mac Jones up for failure in this game. I know he didn't look great, but like, how could you is my main takeaway. Like it was a disaster from the start and didn't get any better as the night went on.
Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. I just you can't do this again. Like, I think you have to give Mac Jones the whole game unless he's just absolutely tumultuous against the Jets. And that segues us pretty well, unless you have any more Bears points to add on the Week 8 matchup they have with the Jets.
No, just the kind of the fact, again, that it wasn't just the offense that was bad, the defense as a whole. And again, I think that goes back into, maybe focus more on the defensive game plan instead of the two quarterback game plan, because you allowed the Bears to finish the game 11 for 18 on third down conversions. I thought I saw on the broadcast, they were around, it was either 31 or 35, somewhere in between that percentage. So they were one of the worst third down conversion teams in the league. They were dynamite all night long, 61.1%. Justin Fields, who can't throw the football to save his life. So you would have thought that was maybe the focus point of the Patriots, is make him throw instead of beating you on the ground. Rushes for 82 yards on 14 carries and a touchdown against a Patriots defense that already got lit up by Lamar Jackson this year. So you would have thought maybe, again, game plan for him to throw instead of run rather. And then like the broadcast too, at one point said, he had 5 passing first downs and 5 passing and 5 rushing third down conversions. That's inexcusable. The fact that I was looking at the snap counts, Dietrich Wise, who you mentioned earlier, one of your best defenders all season, he played under 50% of the snaps, 46%. And Jamie Collins, for some reason, started the game and played 22 snaps. Obviously close to what Wise played, the 33 snaps to the 22. We talked about it when they re-signed him or brought him in for the third or fourth time, whatever we're up to now. Like, why do we keep trying to make Jamie Collins a thing? Like, especially starting him. Like, what are you doing? You overthought that. Just play Wise, play Judon, play Jennings, because it seemed to work out well in this game. He was taken off the field a couple of times. We were like, what are you doing? The guy's playing well. And like you put in the outline here, I mentioned it earlier, the 5 fumbles, you couldn't get a single one. Like, just utter just awfulness and just horrible play all around. Any other thoughts on the defensive game plan, or just kind of what you saw from, or maybe what you would have done differently? Maybe stop Justin Fields on the ground, because that seems like a pretty easy thing to do. Like I said, when Lamar Jackson already did that to you once this year. Yeah,
I mean, they let Justin Fields look good for like the first time all year. Mm-hmm. So not great. Best game of Fields' career, just can't happen. You can't let the Bears score that many points against.
No, absolutely not. Doesn't matter what time the game's at, where it is. Like the fact that you gave up 33 points to an offense that was one of the worst in football. Not great.
Not great. The Jets, though, the 5-2 Jets, didn't expect to be saying that this year. Mm-hmm. Most definitely. Brees Hall, torn ACL. Next day, they trade for James Robinson, which, quick work, credit to them. Not sure why, the Jaguars are the Jaguars, but it looks like they're slowly building towards something. And then they trade one of their really good running backs.
That didn't make a lot of sense.
Seems like a team just content with being bad and trading players that they don't really need to trade. And with a lot of NFL trades, even for good players, they get a 6th-round pick that could become a 5th. It's just not much.
Yeah, the return was
really
weird because it's not like James Robinson. Again, his snap count went down dramatically. I mean, maybe rightfully so, because Travis Etienne was finally starting to look like an all-world, phenomenal running back as he was drafted to be with as high as a pick as they took him. But they were pretty even split the first couple of games of the season. So you would have thought Robinson, had some value. Obviously was great in his rookie year, performed really well again at the start of the year. So yeah, a 6th-round pick that could become a 5th-rounder with the conditions, of course. That screams like a guy that's asking to want it. Maybe he requested a trade behind the scenes with the snap count diminishing as the season gone on, but you never saw anything like that. So kudos to the Jets for giving up practically nothing for a running back of his talent to replace a very solid running back in Brees Hall, of course, a rough injury for him to have an ACL tear and a meniscus injury too. So that kind of tough at derails his season, but a very good replacement, of course.
Yeah, no doubt. But yeah, the Jets, we can't say Jets suck this year because, say what you want about the teams they faced, they're 5-2, and that's undeniable. Even with Joe Flacco to start the year, they're holding up nicely. See how long it lasts, but it's a revamped team, revamped offense. Garrett Wilson's looked pretty good. Corey Davis has been good. Elijah Moore wants to trade. Denzel Mims wants to trade, so maybe the offense will see more changes before the deadline next week. But they're getting it done. Tyler Conklin has been surprisingly pretty good. Didn't really expect him to do a whole lot this year. CJ Uzomah's been hurt, but their offense just gets it done. They don't have guys that just blow you away every game consistently, but they're getting it done. So credit to them for that. On defense, CJ Mosley has just been tearing it up this year. Jordan Whitehead's been a nice addition. So is Quan Alexander. Sauce Gardner looking like a defensive player of the year favorite. Quinn Williams is very good. Jonathan Franklin Myers makes plays. And yeah, a pretty solid overall defensive unit for them. But I'm just my focus just practically shifts solely to Sauce Gardner because
he's an absolute stud.
I think Devontae Parker is going to have a real tough time. We could see a very quiet Devontae Parker game, and that makes me nervous.
Well, that was going to be my question: is if you're the Jets, do you put him on Parker? Or do you put him on Myers? They use, different obviously type of wide receivers, but they use Myers more. So wouldn't you want to shut down that option and make Matt go to other guys, maybe other unproven guys? Devontae Parker's had a couple of good games here and there, but again, still trying to find his footing. You don't really know if Aguilar is going to come back and play. He played. I didn't even realize 3 snaps in the Bears game. I never even saw him on the field once. So Gardner's obviously he's the deep threat corner. So I guess Parker's the guy you put him on, or would you go with Myers and maybe try to shut him down?
Yeah, I'm putting Gardner on Parker if I'm them.
Okay.
Let's see. Probably rotating cast on Myers, I imagine.
That's true. Yep.
It's definitely not the same old Jets. So the Patriots might have their work cut out for them this week, depending on, like last week, hopefully not in the same sense. It's going to rest a lot on the quarterback play. So
that's true. And of course, like I said, we did find out earlier today, right before 4:00, I believe the tweet came out from Field Yates that the breaking news of week 8, the Patriots, the quarterback Mac Jones took about 90% of the first team reps in practice today and will start for the team on Sunday against the Jets per source. So we know Mac Jones is the starter heading into week 8. Your call here, was that the right decision by the Patriots? Would you have gone with him and just kind of wrote it out, or would you have given, maybe, the answer is obvious here, but I don't know. You said you were pretty high on Zappe, Mac Jones. Do you give Mac Jones a short leash in this game again, or do you just stick it out with him the entire way and say, this is our guy, we're not going to make the same mistake we made again the previous week?
Yeah, I think you got to go back to Mac Jones. I'm a Zappe guy right now, temporarily, potentially, but
you still have the fever.
I think you got to go to Mac Jones. Mac and Zach Power Hour. like last year, first time, like Timmy and Jimmy. But like I said earlier, I think you got to have Zappy ready in case Mac struggles again.
Okay.
Like they're saying, oh yeah, like Mac Jones is going to play.
What is a struggle?
I think people are saying that is like the end all be all. Like he's starting. I don't think that's like a guarantee that he's going to play the whole game regardless.
So you think Zappy's going to make an appearance in this game at some point? No, or do you? Okay.
I think there's a good chance that they're underwhelmed with Mac. They just go back to Zappy.
Okay, so
they're not going to come out. They're not going to come out and say that.
And say, okay, what do you consider? I can't imagine you consider 3 drives and interception underperform or underwhelmed and, yank him again. So what would Jones have to do, in your opinion, to, maybe shift the tides back to Zappy in this game particularly?
Like not be able to get anything going from the start, like consistent 3 and outs, maybe a couple picks. Like it'd have to be pretty bad. I think they're more likely than not going to get Mac the whole game, but
I think you have to at this point. Like even if it's bad, I think you have to ride it out with him, I think. And then if it's like, if you have an entire game of him being bad, then you say, okay, like this isn't working this year. Get your head right. We'll go back. Like I just don't even know if I believe that. Like I don't know if you can go back to Zappy, because I think once you do it at any point this year, unless Mac gets hurt again, like if you go back to him, I think that's it for Jones's confidence. Like it's got to be dwindling right now. If Zappy sees a start again or an appearance again, unless it's in like garbage time or something else like that in a blowout win, I don't think it's gonna sit well and work well with Mac. And then I think you're really going to, I know people have been pushing the quarterback controversy narrative. I think you're really going to have one of those. And that's something they can't have right now because, it's a tumultuous time with the Patriots, a bad loss. If you're kind of looking on the outside looking in now, if you somehow lose this game to the Jets, then you're sitting at 3-5 and your season's really starting to go down the crapper. Like you have to have a lot of things go right for it. And I think right now sticking with Mac's the best call. I can't imagine they go back to Zappy and it's going to work out well for him in the end.
That's fair. Joel asks, how mobile is Zach Wilson, and Mac Jones needs to play until he can't play anymore, specifically if he gets hurt. Like Zach Wilson can run, but like
he's not doing it a lot this year. I feel like
he doesn't scare me when he runs.
No, not like Lamar, or not like Justin. Like you won't see another Justin Fields type performance in this game. I don't think. Like
I hope not.
If you do against Zach Wilson, then that's a problem. Like he just decided to not game plan for 2 quarterbacks that can run for 2 weeks in a row, which is not a great thing. But I don't know. I feel like the Jets have kind of, obviously we saw him run last year or run in the preseason and get hurt. So I think maybe the Jets have kind of been like, hey, could you cool it on the runs a little bit? Like make you a little bit more of a pocket passer. We have these weapons for you can use. Like I just feel like he's not running as much as maybe he did last year, especially not at the beginning of the preseason this year before he got hurt.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's I don't know. I kind of have like a bad feeling after watching Justin Fields that he's kind of makes some noise on the ground.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right. So we'll stick on
Justin Fields. So
no, well, that's what I mean. It's not like Justin Fields is a legit like weapon on the ground. I'm not saying Zach Wilson isn't, but like I feel like it's like 2 different style of quarterbacks. Like Wilson can throw it a little bit. I feel like you said, Fields really wasn't doing that at the start of the year. Wilson's done enough to win these games. We'll stick on the ground then. If you think maybe Zach Wilson will have a big performance in this game, do you think we see a lot of James Robinson? You mentioned him. Did clear his physical, I saw, was not on the injury report. He was dealing with a knee. It got cleared of that. So he most likely is going to suit up for the Jets. Of course, the Jets this season have had a pretty good split between Michael Carter and Breece Hall before he got hurt. Of course, Hall was starting to take over the reins as the lead back the last couple of weeks, but Carter, of course, with the injury, has to come in and play pretty well. I'm not going to run through the numbers to bore people here with the splits and everything, but do you see the Jets maybe doing the same thing they did with Carter and Hall now with James Robinson and Carter? Do you think James Robinson is just kind of going to come out and, we traded a draft pick for him. This is our number 1 guy. We're going to use him as much as we can. Yeah,
I think there'll be like a little bit of a split, but the fact that they acted so quickly on this deal, I think they're going to use Robinson pretty heavily right away.
Okay.
I'm hoping, talking about the running game, now another week for Damian Harris to get a little more healthy. We see a more even split. Nothing against Ramondre. I just think it, creates different looks, and Damian Harris is still a valuable player on the team. So it's good to just get him back in the mix. Nelson Aguilar, as you have mentioned, like, I don't really know Nelson Aguilar.
At this point, do you really care? Know. I just had him in there just because it was 2 guys that you maybe expected. 2 guys that obviously got cleared to play in the Bears game. You didn't see really any of them. Of course, you saw Damian Harris for a couple of runs and 9 snaps. Like I said, Aguilar, I didn't even know was active because, again, looking at the snap count, only played 3 snaps compared to Jacoby Myers' 52, Devontae Parker's 48, and Tyquan Thornton's 44. I think right there that's not your quote unquote big 3 because those names aren't going to really light up anybody's radar gun or anything. But I think those are your 3 guys moving forward. Like if Kendrick Bourne still has the turf toe, I saw Phil Perry today say that the Patriots have been asked about Aguilar, Bourne. I saw Jacoby Myers in trades, which no, do not trade Jacoby Myers. I don't care how far out of a playoff race you might become. If you start losing some of these games, like Myers is a guy that should stick around here. But Aguilar is kind of an enigma right now. The other question is, do you really care at this point if Aguilar plays? Because I think right now you should be running with the 3 I just mentioned, Myers, Parker, and Thornton. You have to see what you have in Tyquan Thornton. He's looked good in stretches here when given the opportunity. Of course, didn't have a ton in the Bears game because, really nobody did. But Aguilar is just, like I said, kind of an afterthought at this point right now.
All right, they're with you.
All right.
You summed it up pretty well.
I agree with you on the Harris thing. Just to throw my 2 cents in there. Like, I'm not saying I'm worried about Stevenson's workload, but he is getting a decent amount of carries the last couple of weeks. Maybe you even that out a little bit if Harris is back healthy, just to keep both guys crisp and, keep them from maybe Harris re-aggravating something or Stevenson coming down with some sort of injury here and there.
Oh, quick little yawn. Do we want to get to predictions?
Sure. Because you have an interesting one. I don't know if you're going to change yours now that we know that there's 1 quarterback playing, or are you sticking with your 2 quarterback prediction?
Yeah, I'm sticking with the possibility of us seeing both.
Okay.
If Mac were to struggle, I want to keep that option open. I think the Jets are going to beat the Patriots if Mac Jones plays because I just like
your faith in him is completely gone. Seems
like
it's dwindling. It does. It's not as high as it was before. I'll say that.
I don't know, man. Like, it's a good year for the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
They've even given the Patriots fits when they're worse. I don't like this. I don't like this game for the Patriots. I think they're going to be playing pissed off, but I just don't know if it's going to turn into a win. I think the Jets are playing for something this year. They're playing for something like to right the wrong narrative that's been around the team for so long. Just of them, everybody just hating on them because they're bad. They want to turn that around. And I just have a feeling it's going to be one of these like 27-17 games, no matter which way. Mm-hmm. But I have a feeling if there's 2 QBs, if we see both, I think I have more confidence in Zappy. I think I have more confidence in him winning the game for the Patriots than I do of Mac Jones right now. So I'm going to go 27-17 for the Jets. If Mac plays the whole game, I'm going to go 24-17 if we see a little bit of both. I have more faith in Zappy right now. It's like,
I don't blame you. I like a lot of your takes. I like a lot of the stuff you have to say. I hate that take. I really do. Just because I'm riding or dying with Mac Jones right now. I said that to you Monday watching the kids. It really threw me off the Monday Night Football. I said that to you Monday. Like, he is the guy. You ride him until you can't. So I'm going 30-17 Patriots for the reasons that you mentioned that the Patriots are going to be playing pissed off. I think you have to have a kind of a snap back to reality game for Mac Jones. Mac Jones revenge game. 300 yards is my prediction for him. 3 touchdowns, 2 passing, 1 rushing. I think you're going to see a pissed off Mac Jones. I think he's had enough of this. He didn't say so when asked about it, but I'd have to assume the booze and the Zappy chants got to him. I have to assume the benching got to him. Again, whether you want to believe that it was injury related or performance based, I think you and I are in agreement it was performance based. So I think he's got a lot to prove, obviously, coming out in this game. He can't play bad. He can't get the job away again, as I said, because that's going to be good for him if he does. This is the prototypical bounce back game for the Patriots. You're playing a Jets team, as you said, that's coming in riding high 5-2. Maybe he thinks this is a game of, the Patriots came off, can't even beat the Bears. So we've got this game in the bag here. We're 5-2. We're the new shit in the division. I think the Patriots are going to take advantage of that. And you mentioned it earlier, the Jets, they haven't beaten a ton of, look at who they've won, I think, as you said. But I'm not really impressed by these games. You beat a hot and cold Browns team by 1 point back in week 2. The Steelers suck. Like, that team is horrible. You beat them 24-20 in week 3. The Dolphins, who were led by Skylar Thompson, and Zach Wilson had 14 completions in that game. You win 40-17. That was more so on the defensive end than anything else for the Jets. Week 6, you beat a Packers team who their offense is horrible. You beat them 27-10. That's not surprising. The Packers couldn't even muster more than 10 points against the Jets. And then last week, you beat a Broncos team that was already bad to begin with. Now they don't have Russell Wilson, who's not helping them anyway. You beat them 16-9. So it's like, all right, their defense has been good. You kind of got the same two teams going at it. The Patriots and Jets both want to win their games or win the games they play on the ground and with their defenses. I just think this is a game where the Patriots have everything to play for right now because of what happened last week. They're going to be embarrassed. Same thing with Mac. So they're going to come out and I think surprise some people.
I hope so.
I do too.
But I don't know. The Broncos game, like every single game the Broncos play, they just bring the other team down with them.
That's so true. You said that last week. It's so true. And then real quick on the Broncos, I was going to mention it when we jumping into the NFL stuff, the week recap, but I don't know if you saw the report today that Russell Wilson continues to be a jackass and was doing workouts on the team plane, flying to London. Like, I don't know how if you're the Broncos, you can like, this is the guy we go to war with every day. Like, we're to get excited for Russell Wilson and all his antics. Like if I was a Broncos player, I'd be asking off of that team so quickly. Some guy, especially on the offensive side, like I can't take this guy anymore. The antics he does, the stupid commercials and the shit he says, like, talk about a fall from grace when it comes to a guy that was pretty damn likable, I feel like, across the league. And now I think no one wants anything to do with him because he just doesn't stop.
Yeah, he's the worst. He's just unbelievably corny.
Mm-hmm.
Injury report before we
that's right. I skipped over that. I apologize.
Some week 7 thoughts. No worries. Corey Davis and John Franklin Myers DNP for the Jets today. Dwayne Brown, Jermaine Johnson, Quincy Williams, and Ashton Davis were all limited. David Andrews, Christian Barmore, and Kyle Duggar did not participate in practice today for the Patriots, so that's not great.
Three big losses.
Yeah, limited were Aguilar, Bourne, Jennings, Jonathan Jones, Mike Onwenu, Adrian Phillips, Josh Uche, and Isaiah Wynn. Isaiah Wynn can stay inactive if they want him to.
Yep, absolutely.
It sucks to potentially not have Kyle Duggar, but at least, Tyler Conklin's been good, but it's not like you're playing the Ravens again with Mark Andrews. Hopefully they can weather the storm there, losing a guy that can really cover tight ends at an elite level.
Mm-hmm.
Barmore's dealing with that knee injury. Just vibes. I kind of feel like he's not going to play.
Probably not, yep.
David Andrews with a concussion, concussions can be really bad, but you never really know. We see people in the league come back from concussions in a week all the time. I feel like
he didn't look great after that hit though. I mean, it was kind of jarring to see a guy his caliber. I know blindside hit, so it's not like it's something that he put himself in that position, but that was another moment. Everything that has gone wrong tonight. Of course, you lose arguably one of your better players on offense. Of course, your best offensive lineman. That was not a great scene, and you hope he can recover quickly because he's going to be needed. The Jets have a pretty good, pass, rush and everything. So it's definitely a guy you're going to need to lean on in this game. And if he's not there, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. Good luck replacing him because I truly don't know what they'll do if they need to replace him.
You'll put James Ferentz there and hope to God, he can just kind of stand there and eat some hits because it's going to be ugly if he's in there, as we've seen in the past. And then you go back to the question of, does Mac Jones trust his offensive line? And maybe he gets skittish again and shit hits the proverbial fan and we don't have another great performance.
I hope not.
Mm-hmm.
We got Joel in the chat saying Pats 24, Jets 20. Matt saying Pats 22, Jets 21.
That'd be a hell of a game.
Interesting. Yeah. Week 7, Cardinals 42, Saints 34. Saints are 2-5. Cardinals moved to 3-4. DeAndre Hopkins has anticipated without, especially without Marshall Lattimore on defense of the Saints, plays pretty good.
Yeah, great return for him. 10 catches, 103 yards. Couldn't get in the end zone, but it was a huge focal point for him to get back involved and back into the swing of things. And obviously the Cardinals did that in fold. Of course, with no Marquise Brown, that made that a little easier. And then the Cardinals defense was great. 2 pick sixes for Andy Dalton. Of course, there was the meme now. I think it was it Marco Wilson or was Isaiah Simmons Marco. The one that, Marco Wilson jumping in slow motion into the end zone behind Andy Dalton. That was a great picture there. And then Robbie Anderson, didn't expect him to do a whole lot, but he was pretty quiet in his Cardinals debut. I'm surprised he was even active for the game with, a short turnaround. Only logged 1 target, 0 catches. I didn't see how much he played in this game, but it clearly was not a lot with only the 1 target.
No, it was not. The weirdest game of the week, Panthers 21, Bucks 3. Tom Brady is washed.
Okay, that was going to be my question. How concerned are you in the Bucks? I'm starting to come off my hate to do it because I've said it before. I don't ever want to bet against Tom Brady, but the last couple of weeks has made me very nervous and making me want to back off my Buccaneers Super Bowl pick because they do not look good. Yeah, he is.
Not.
He may have.
He's like him being bad in this case is him throwing for almost 300 yards. But like he's just. It's also not like bad, but he's just not himself. And that kind of falls into the wash category here, given the fact of his age.
Well, the thing you texted or you sent me to earlier, I forgot to put it in the outline or just kind of have the note of it here. But like their offense is all him. You sent it to me. They have no run game. As you said, it was one of the most historically bad rush attempts or whatever. Yeah.
Rush defense on average ever.
Which is wild when you have a running back like Leonard Fournette, and even Rachaad White's been pretty good. Fournette rushes 8 times. Again, you get down to the game, so it makes it hard to run the ball, but 8 for 19 for Fournette and 6 for 24 for White. Like that's not getting it done. You have Mike Evans obviously drop a walk-in touchdown, which really was the difference in the game, or maybe the turning point in the game. Their offensive line is not great. That leads to the inability to run the football, and Brady's getting hit around and not playing great. So I'm with you. Like he does look like he's starting to slip a little bit. Again, just for being the Brady fan that we are, you hope he can figure things out. But right now, like that Buccaneers team looks like it is spiraling completely out of control, and it doesn't look like there was really any light at the end of the tunnel.
No, I mean, huge. Panthers are just so bad.
Had some good performances, some good standout guys. Are they better without CMC? So yeah, they are.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Sure, they are.
Mm-hmm.
So weird, such a weird game. Foreman, despite Hubbard being named the number 1 going into the game, finished with the better performance. PJ Walker didn't look too shabby, and they beat the Bucs in a stunner. The Bucs almost got shut out by the worst team in the league. That's pretty stupid.
Pretty bad. They couldn't even score a touchdown against them.
Yeah, who's like not playing bad though is the Bengals. They're finally starting to round into form a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Burrow
that Super Bowl hangover is over.
Pissing on people. He's pissing on people. 34 for 42, 481 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 carries, 20, and a touchdown. So over 500 yards, just over. Jamar Chase is back in rare form. Tyler Boyd had the best week through the air of any receiver. Joe Mixon was solid. T. Higgins was really good. This just shows you what the Bengals are capable of, and they whomped the Falcons.
They are back. I still don't understand what the Falcons.
The Falcons haven't covered the spread all year, which is kind of disappointing.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
I will no longer be riding with them every week. I will be considering my options because every week I just picked the Falcons. I didn't care what the spread was.
Because they usually do cover. I don't get what their offense is. Like I don't have anything about them in the outline because there's nothing really to write home about. I think if I'm remembering correctly, again, you had a game where Marcus Mariota threw the ball like 17 times maybe or 18 times. Like I don't get what their plan or their attack. I know they were a run heavy offense, but like at some point you got to let Marcus Mariota, again, not the best quarterback on the planet, but let him throw the ball a little bit, see if you can do anything to move the football. And again, this was a game where it was just Bengals right from the get-go. Like you said, Joe Burrow has, maybe put himself in the MVP category because of how well he's played the last 2 or 3 weeks. He's definitely helped me carry my fantasy football team. So I'm very appreciative of that, but the Bengals are completely back. Like I said, their Super Bowl hangover seems to be over. I know they're, again, people will look to the strength of their schedule. They beat up on some pretty bad teams, but as you've mentioned in the past, you beat the teams that are in front of you and you keep moving forward. So hopefully they can continue that into whoever they play this upcoming week. I think it's the Browns on Monday Night Football? It might be.
I don't remember.
They're playing the Browns in one of the primetime matchups, I'm pretty sure. It's either Sunday night or Monday night.
Yeah, sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, 35-17 over the Falcons to the Bengals. The Cowboys beat the Lions 24-6. The Lions are back to being the Lions.
They suck. I was so wrong about them.
They stink. Zeke Elliott is not, bending over and letting Tony Pollard just take over the number 1 role. They're kind of finding the hybrid type thing right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys are getting it done. Their defense is really good. We're all over Jared Goff. Amon-Ra leaves the game. That's a tough blow for the Lions, but yeah, they're not good.
No. Did you see any of this game? Did you catch any of Dak's return? He looked okay, I thought.
Not really,
no. Some of the highlights I saw, I was trying to flip back and forth. It didn't look terrible. 19 for 25, 207 yards, a touchdown, 2 sacks, a 113.2 rating. He did what I thought the Cowboys did what I thought the Patriots should have done with Mac Jones, is they wrote it out with Dak. Didn't look great at the start of the game, kind of found his footing halfway through. Of course, you mentioned the defense made it incredibly easy, along with the good run attack, as you said, with Pollard and Zeke. But the defense was the story of the game for the Cowboys. Like you said, 5 sacks on Goff, 5 turnovers. I saw on the breakdown or the box score for the game, they forced 3 fumbles, but recovered 4. I don't know how that math adds up. But yeah, good game. The Cowboys, they might be legit. It is the Cowboys. So like we said with the Yankees in the past, they tend to fall off towards the end of the year and right around playoff time. Maybe the Cowboys do that towards the end of the year, or maybe they continue to play really well, because they look like they're firing on all cylinders right now and everything's kind of going their way.
Yeah, they're not looking too shabby.
Mm-hmm.
The G-Men 23, moving to 6-1. The Jaguars 17. Daniel Dimes is good. He's good. Trevor Etienne is also good, but Daniel Dimes and the G-Men are better.
I put Danny Dimes as good with a little G. I'm not ready to.
The G-Men and the Bruins are both 6-1. Who would have thunk it?
Yeah, I would have maybe bet more on the Bruins being 6-1 than I ever would have the Giants, because that's wild that the New York teams are combined 11 and obviously excluding the Bills, but the Giants and Jets are 11-3. Just like everyone predicted at the start of the year. But yeah, I don't know did you catch any of this game? I was watching this. The ending of this game was wild. Christian Kirk catches the ball on the 1-yard line, and I don't know who the defensive back was for the Giants. Kept them out of the end zone. Trevor Lawrence did a decent job trying to drive them down the field and lead a game-winning comeback, but literally ends up a yard short, and the Giants improved to 6-1, as you said, off the back of Daniel Jones playing pretty well these last couple of weeks. Rushes for over 100 yards this week, throws for over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Do the Giants have something in Danny Dimes? I don't know, because I still think their defense has been what's carried them the last couple of weeks. But Jones is playing well. I'll give credit where credit's due there.
Yeah, I agree. The G-Men are 6-1. That's weird. Another AFC South game. I feel like there's 1 or 2 matchups every week.
Mm-hmm.
Titans,
they're all terrible
19,
too.
Colts 10, fart.
Yeah, they're all horrible games. There has not been one entertaining AFC South, you said, game so far this year. Absolutely horrible.
Yeah,
they're
all
bad.
I don't even want to talk about this game besides the fact that maybe Matt Ryan's career is over.
The weird situation with him, because the first tweet I saw saying that he was getting, or it wasn't saying that he was getting benched, because he was gonna miss the week with with whatever injury he's dealing with. Is it a hamstring or maybe? I can't remember what I saw. Yeah. But they said it was an injury related benching, and they were gonna go with Sam Ehlinger and Frank Reich. The tweet I saw said that it wasn't gonna be permanent for Matt Ryan, and then like an hour later, the tweet I saw was like, "Oh, Ehlinger's been named the starting quarterback for the rest of the year." It's like, I guess either someone messed up the first tweet, or there's a quick decision, pull the trigger for the Colts to say we're done with Matt Ryan, because he is terrible.
Yeah, it's over, I think, for Matt Ryan.
I think so. Well, this is on the Colts then. Do we have early bets on who the next suckbag quarterback that the Colts are going to bring in that's washed over the hill is? Can we start placing bets on that for next year?
Out of respect to Sam Ehlinger, I'm gonna hold off until I see how he performs.
All right.
Out of respect.
Okay. Fair enough.
Ravens 23, Browns 20. Didn't expect this game to be as close, but Gus Edwards did pretty well in his return. That was cool to see. Mm-hmm. I didn't really catch much of this game, but David Njoku got hurt.
That does not help me. Again, fantasy football related, but yeah, 7 for 7, 71 yards, and he ends the day with a high ankle sprain. So that's great to see. I caught the end of this game, caught the Browns driving. The Ravens have legitimate defensive problems. Like, they almost blew another fourth quarter 10-point lead. That would have been, I think, maybe the third in 4 games. If I'm right, I might have that wrong, but they're obviously, we've talked about it in the past when we've done these wrap ups. Like, they are blowing leads at an Atlanta Falcons rate. And this game was their own doing. Lamar Jackson has been great this season. He's been an MVP candidate. They only had him throw the ball 16 times in this game. It was 9 for 16 for 120 yards. I know that he's dynamic and can run the football, and that's his MO, but And again, I know you said Gus Edwards had a good game on the grounds, but if you're the Ravens, how are you not letting Lamar Jackson kind of, again, to be corny, let Lamar cook? Like, I don't know how you're not letting him throw the ball more and kind of help your team try to put some of these games away, because you're letting teams walk back into games. It's happening week after week.
I don't know either, man, but headband Heineke and the Commanders, 23-21 over the Packers. Aaron Rodgers is also washed.
Who do you have more faith in figuring things out? Aaron Rodgers and the Packers or Tom Brady and the Bucs? Might be an easy question there, but I want to get your thoughts on it. Or what team is more in trouble? I should have phrased that. What team do you feel worse about right now?
I can't say I have more faith in Rodgers. I just can't. I think Brady
good.
Could turn it around any week. But
the supporting cast for Brady is better. Like,
yeah, like Aaron.
I don't know what the Bucs problem is, but the Packers have no offense outside of Aaron Rodgers, and he's not even been good.
Just like he hasn't had one game that like blows your mind this year, and that's weird.
It's been very average, which is insane for him. But again, like, it comes down to their offense is, in this game at least, it was Aaron Jones who finally broke out, at least in the air. They still don't. It's the same thing. The Packers and the Bucs kind of have the same problem. They don't run the football really at all. Aaron Jones is more of a receiving back, especially in this game. And then Allen Lazard had a good game, but now he's hurt with a shoulder injury. So their offense is sputtering. Their defense has not looked great. Like, you're giving up 23 points to the Commanders. I know it's not a ton of points, but like, still, that's a team you very easily should have handled. I don't care who the quarterback is. Just not a great showing for the Packers.
And Ben Heineke, he's the difference maker.
I guess so. I talked about it, I'm pretty sure, when they made the addition of Carson Wentz. It's like, you have a quarterback that has held his own, has looked pretty good at times. Like, why don't they want to just give the reins to Heineke? Maybe this is the stretch where they just kind of say, all right, we have something in this kid. Screw Carson Wentz, which is what most teams should do, because Carson Wentz is not a good quarterback. But we'll have to see, of course, with Heineke as they move forward.
That we shall do. What is next?
The game we briefly talked about.
I don't even want to talk about this.
Didn't see into this game. I don't really. Again, the biggest storyline coming out of it was that Breece Hall, as you mentioned, had the ACL injury. So and
Russell Wilson still sucks.
And that too. He didn't even play in this game. It was Brett Ripken or Ripien or whatever the hell his stupid name is, because he's
had to mention that.
Yeah, he does. He's very corny too, as we mentioned. And if I have to see one more commercial or one more thing about, again, I don't know why we had to know today that Russell Wilson was doing stretches on the team plane. Like, if I was someone on the plane, I saw a good TikTok of a guy acting like Russell Wilson doing all the stretches, and then another guy trying to like sleep on the plane and getting bumped by him. It's like, if you saw that on the team plane flying to London, an 8-hour flight, it's like, buddy, what are you doing? Sit down and just enjoy the flight, watch a movie, put some headphones in, listen to like gospel or something, or like somebody read the Bible on tape to you. Like, get out of my face.
He's just such a dork.
Yeah.
The frisky Seahawks continue to be frisky. Kenneth Walker is nasty. They win 37-23. Kenneth Walker hit the top speed of any player this year, over 22 miles per hour, which is cool. Pretty crazy to think about. Austin Eckler is still Austin Eckler. He caught all 12 of his targets through the air. Got practically like Leonard Fournette. Like, they're both practically just receivers at this point. But the main storyline to come out of this, you got one back, you lose a couple, and Mike Williams and J.C. Jackson are both hurt.
Yep,
this was out for the year.
This was the injury bowl. You had Mike Williams leave with a high ankle sprain. I saw today he's going to miss, I think it was 4 weeks. I saw you said it. J.C. Jackson's done for the season with a disgusting sounding dislocated kneecap and ruptured patella tendon injury. Yeah, I made the same exact face when I saw the injury, and obviously heard the description. You did get Keenan Allen back, as you mentioned. You get one back, you lose one. He was, I don't want to say non-existent, because I can't imagine there was much game plan for him. 2 catches, 2 targets, and 11 yards. And DK Metcalf, again, joking here, because it happened obviously once this year with him leaving on a cart. When I saw that, I'm like, oh, I wonder if he has to go to the bathroom again. Nope, this was a legitimate injury. He's dealing with a patellar tendon injury as well. But according to Pete Carroll, he is not going to need surgery. There's some questions if he'll even miss time or not. So DK Metcalf maybe survived a bad injury, but Mike Williams and J.C. Jackson unfortunately did not. And now the Chargers, whose offense has not looked great outside of, you mentioned Austin Eckler, they have some question marks moving forward.
Yeah, not good. It's been an underachieving year for the Chargers.
Absolutely.
The Raiders, namely Josh Jacobs, whomped I almost said Tennessee Texans. I had to stop myself there. The Houston Texans. Josh Jacobs has been like the best running back in the league the last 3 weeks.
It's just wild to think of. Like, he's a good running back, but like, no, that's true. I didn't even think of that. Yeah, but that was the main thing for, again, I didn't watch any of this game because at that point, I think I think the Yankees game was on. So I was watching that, or the end of the Phillies game, one of the two was on. So I would rather watch that than watch the Raiders take on the arguably the worst team in football in the Texans, because they're terrible. But that was a big thing. Jacobs, as you mentioned, the 3 touchdowns, and then old friend Deron Harmon had a 73-yard pick 6 to pretty much seal the deal in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really catch much of that game either, so I don't really have much to add.
Nope.
Chiefs 44, 49ers 23. Christian McCaffrey's first game as a 49er. They gave up 4 picks for him.
What'd you think of the trade, real quick? Because we obviously happened after I think a day after the show, so we didn't get a chance to discuss it. Kind of surprising he went to the 49ers, at least for me, because they're a team, obviously, you think of that they never really have had like superstar running backs, but they always seem to figure it out. They always seem to produce pretty solid running backs. Obviously spent high draft capital on, I can't think of the quarterback's name, I'm drawing a blank on now. Trey Lance, thank you. Now they spend a ton of draft capital on a star running back. So they're kind of in all in mode going forward, but kind of surprising that the 49ers is the place that Christian McCaffrey ended up. At least for me. I don't know if you feel differently.
100%.
I did too. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Christian McCaffrey on the same team as Deebo Samuel is a pretty crazy concept.
Mm-hmm.
That should be fun if they can make it work. Patrick Mahomes is nasty. McCole Hardman had I feel like his first big game of the year.
Yep.
And like everybody in the receiving game went off. It was just a clinic.
Pick somebody, because well, that's what makes you can make a case that the Chiefs show that they were the best team. I know Buffalo's been great this year, but the fact that the Chiefs did this against a very good defense in the 49ers, like I thought I heard in the broadcast, the 49ers had only been giving up like something ridiculous, like 16 points per game. That might have been wrong. But it was like a dismal points per game against, because of how great their defense had been. And the Chiefs picked them apart in all, facets of the game. They didn't, traditional running backs didn't do a lot, but like you said, McCole Hardman has 2 rushing touchdowns, 4 catches and a touchdown. Juju goes for 7 and 124 and a touchdown. Marcus Valdes-Scantling, who is kind of the forgotten guy in that offense, I feel like, he goes for 3 and 111. Kelsey with the other guys, had a quiet 6 for 98. And you mentioned it, Mahomes right now is maybe the odds-on favorite for MVP because of how great he's looked the last couple of weeks. Again, the Bills are on a bye, so maybe I'm, more biased towards the Chiefs right now. And again, the Bills did beat the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. So again, maybe I'll, pump the brakes a little bit. But Kansas City, what they were able to do to the 49ers, they looked ridiculous in this game.
Yeah, super team vibes, maybe. Mm-hmm. Even without Tyreek Hill, they just looked like a superpower.
Yep.
Dolphins and Steelers, just another fart game.
This game, I know I was watching the Yankees and Astros game because I had no interest in this.
I watched so little of this game.
Yeah, the only storyline was the Tua was back, really. I mean, he looked solid, 261 yards and a touchdown. You said you didn't catch into this game. There were a couple of moments he took off to run and was very accepting of some contact. Was putting his head down, trying to run through people. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, just go down and slide, you idiot. Don't get hurt again, please. So he didn't really have any fear, and I thought in the little bit of the game I watched looked pretty good. I don't want to say Kenny Pickett sucks yet because he's only 3 games into his NFL career, but he makes some really just stupid, just dumb decision-making. 3 picks again in this game, and George Pickens had a good breakout game again, 6 catches on 6 targets for 61 yards and a touchdown. So that was pretty much it. Yeah, nothing else great in this game.
But it's been a rough sledding for Kenny Pickett to start.
Mm-hmm. And that's week 8.
Yeah.
Or week 7, rather. Sorry.
Week 7, yeah.
I saw the week 8 on the Jets preview again.
Close enough.
Yep.
On to Bruins. Not a ton of Bruins, but we'll, recap the games quickly and talk about some news because Brad Marchand and Charlie McAvoy both back at practice without non-contact jerseys, which is weird in a good way because they're both kind of expected to be back around Thanksgiving, maybe a little after. And we're just a little under a month away from Thanksgiving, and they are in the mix. Well,
Elgar, I
McAvoy
heard
not as
today
much,
say Marchand
but
might be back sooner than that.
yeah,
Is a little rumbling he heard. So I don't know how
it
true that
seems
is,
like
but
they're on like a game by game basis with Marchand, but
mhm.
he's not playing the next 2 games. We know that, so we can rule those 2 out. But I mean, any time before Thanksgiving time is an early return for Brad Marchand. It doesn't look like he's McAvoy's going to be back as early, but the fact that he's already shed the non-contact jersey makes you wonder. 2 weeks from now, we're gonna have Charlie McAvoy back as well, perhaps too. That would be pretty awesome. Marchand was reinserted on the top line as we saw last year. Marchand, Bergeron, DeBrusque, Hall, Krejci, Pastrnak, Zaka will in this case move down to the third line for the first time this year, which will be interesting to see how they gel with Coyle and Smith, Foligno, Nosek, and Greer. Foligno the surprise of the year so far. I don't know what they're
He's been
hanging on to with Tomas
great.
Nosek besides the fact that he wins faceoffs and kills some penalties, but so be it. Not something that really bothers me too much. And AJ Greer has definitely earned his spot. Jack Stanika had a rough go against Anaheim, so he's an extra forward. And Trent Fredericks kind of just like he's had moments. He had that one goal against Florida that was really nice. But he's still a guy trying to find his way, so I don't really have a problem. Lindholm and Grzelcyk have been good as a pairing. Grzelcyk is at a point per game pace since returning to the lineup, so that's really nice. Maybe a career offensively for him. Maybe not. Forbert and Clifton have been fantastic. Really rock solid. I think one of the better like low key pairings in the league. Riley and Carlo have been solid for the most part, not like jumping off the page, anything crazy. But personally, the guy I'm going to get to next is a guy I prefer right now to see in the lineup over Mike Riley because he just doesn't do it for me, and Zaboral does. And
yeah, Zaboral's been fine. I'd play him over Riley in a heartbeat.
Yeah, Strawman's just kind of there as depth as expected. So
yep,
that's nothing crazy. Power play 1, Krejci, Pastrnak, Marchand, Bergeron, DeBrusque. Power play 2, Lindholm, Zaka, Hall, Coyle, and Foligno. A guy we saw in the power play last year, but especially with his improved play this year, he is earning his claim to a power play spot. So hopefully,
absolutely,
his improved play warrants improved power play production because he really didn't do anything in the power play last year. How are you feeling about this team right now?
I don't know how you can't feel anything other than good about where they are right now with how well they've played. I mean, they've gotten, I'm sure you're going to get to it with the games that obviously they played in. But Ullmark has been absolutely fantastic. I may have picked the wrong goalie to be in Vezina consideration with how well he's looked. What's he, 5-0 now, whatever it is, or not? Or probably close to it, right? 5-0. Did you have it? You had it in somewhere here, I thought.
Like arguably the best goalie in the league right now.
He's played it on paper. A lot of people will look at that. The question I was going to have for you, because you mentioned Marchand is it seems like you said, game to game basis with how well they've played. And I heard DJ Bean talk about this actually right before we got on to do this. And he said, Marchand's going to be a tough guy to keep out of the lineup if he wants to get out there. But with how well the Bruins have looked, and they don't look like they really need him right now, would you keep Marchand on that trajectory for, right around Thanksgiving? Or would you, as soon as, he says he wants to go, would you put him out there?
Yes.
You would? Okay.
No hesitation. Yes.
All right.
And to your point earlier, Ullmark is 5-0 with 2.01 goals against and 936 save percentage.
Just like everyone predicted for Ullmark. Yep, best goalie in the league. It's right at the top of everyone's list. Yeah.
Cruising. Looking so good. On to some quick game recaps, though. Speaking of the man himself, he's played the last 3 games since our last show. The first of many recent good performances. 30 saves and 31 shots. Bruins win in a shootout. Him and Taylor Hall carried them to the victory against the Ducks here. Frank Vetrano revenge game. It was just a gritty one. It was the first game we saw from the Bruins where their offense kind of came back down to earth, not scoring superhuman 5 or more goals a game, which is bound to stop at some point. Nope. But they got it done. Minnesota, they win in OT. Ullmark 24 saves and 27 shots. Nick Foligno snipe. That was a that literally
nasty goal. Yeah,
literally screamed when that happened. Yep. The OT goal was the craziest thing in this game though, because Bergeron has just a prime Bergeron keep the play alive in the offensive zone. Pastrnak makes a sick play, just as he does to get it to Hall, and Hall scores. Hall's on a 3-game goal scoring streak. They win that one. Also at home against Minnesota 4-3. And last night against Dallas, they went 3-1, moved to 6-1 on the year. Ullmark 30 saves on 31 shots. Carlo returns to the lineup, looked okay after missing the last 4 games with a concussion. Really worried about Brandon Carlo. I mean, that's 5 concussions he's had since 2017 now. That's just bonkers that he's even playing. But, I mean, it's good to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's out there. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Jakub Lauko had to be the guy to go down. He's played pretty good overall, but, I mean, he's waiver exempt. You don't have to put him to waivers. It's kind of a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
3-game scoring streak for Hall, like I said. One thing that was made evident again, and, they've had moments over these past few games, like with the power play, but I think the power play needs to be better. They're 19th on the season. They're missing Marchand, they're missing McAvoy, but I think an upswing in power play production will come once those guys make their way back in. But on the flip side, the penalty kill has been very good at a 92% success rate so far. The Bruins are off to their best starts since the 1969-1970 season. So it's pretty
Can't
good.
complain too much. Yeah. Like, I'll take the way they've been playing. Like I said, Olmark's been great. You're still getting scoring from, it seems like, everyone up and down the lineup. It's starting to balance out a little bit now, like you said, with guys like Hall and obviously Pasternak's still playing well. But everything is
just, casually tied for the scoring lead.
They're going to run into a problem with Pastrnak. I don't want to be negative when the Bruin segment's going to be so positive, but the way he's going right now, like you got to you have to figure something out mid-season.
11 million. It's going to be 11 minimum, I think. Yep. 1960, 1970. Nothing really noteworthy about that year. They just won the Stanley Cup, and Bobby Orr had that iconic dive.
My grandfather was at that game.
St. Louis Blues. Was he really?
Yes, That's
awesome.
The story he always tells me, like the way wherever his seats, I don't know if it was season tickets they had or what the deal was, but he said the seats he had, he'll always say it looked like Bobby Orr was flying like directly at like where he was sitting. So
that's nuts.
That is his big, not claim to fame, I don't want to say, but like that's his big, absolutely.
Yeah.
He always tells us so casually too, like, I was at that game. Like I saw Bobby Orr's goal. Like, it's whatever. I'm like, exactly.
Classic. Upcoming an Eastern Conference stint as they, had a 3-game stint with the West. Now they come back to the East, go on the road twice. First off, they have Detroit at home though. Detroit 3-1-2, 5th in the Atlantic. Dominic Kubalik is leading them in scoring with 10 points in 6 games. The free agent addition that the Blackhawks did not qualify. They're just letting everybody go and, rebuilding here. They took advantage, and Kubalik has fit in really nicely. Pretty par for the course for what we expected for the Red Wings, I'd say. They are missing Jakub Vrana for an undefined period of time. He is currently in the NHLPA Player Assistance Program, so all the best to him with whatever he is dealing with. It's a winnable game for the Bruins. Next up, they go to Columbus the day after to play the Blue Jackets. Johnny Gaudreau is fitting the billing there. 8 points in 8 games, 5 goals and 3 assists. They're 3-5, 7th in the Metro, a tough start, namely because of goaltending and defense. But Patrick Laine just came back, so hopefully for their sake that'll add a scoring boost, just not against the Bruins. Kent Johnson, rookie out of Michigan, is second on the team in scoring at a point per game, 5 points. And Yegor Chinnikov is also as well. He played last year. For anyone who might remember, Yegor Chinnikov was the first-round pick 2 years ago of the Blue Jackets that the TSN panel didn't even have ranked anywhere on their
that's board. Right. I remember that. They were like, who the hell is this kid?
Nowhere. Yeah. He's almost immediately in the Blue Jackets lineup, and now he's point per game. So, like,
now they know his name.
One of the more unreal scouting jobs ever. Like, just a crazy story with Yegor. He's pretty good. He's getting more playing time as time goes along in his young career, and he's taking advantage of it. They're leading the youth movement there, definitely in Columbus. In Pittsburgh, pretty typical Pittsburgh team. They're pretty good. Sidney Crosby, 11 points in 7 games, looking awesome. As usual, they're second in the Metro at 4-2-1. Some Penguins fan douchebag kid threw his jersey on the ice, and Leon Draisaitl just picked it up on a stick and immediately threw it back at him in the stands, which was pretty funny.
I had to look this up.
This is a typical Penguins team.
Yeah, I had to look. As soon as I saw that in the outline, I'm like, what the? I have to go look that up. And just say, fuck you and your jersey. Just
did you see earlier in that game too? Jari was skating to the bench and just tripped Draisaitl. They
no, I didn't. I heard it was a wild game, but like I didn't see anything.
Draisaitl gets up. He's like,
what the fuck, man? Yeah,
what the fuck?
Yeah.
It was really weird. But yeah, if you want to look that up, that's a funny video.
I definitely have to look that up too.
It's a good slate of games ahead for the Patriots or the Bruins, not the Patriots this week. I'm looking forward to it. A little back to back, and then game against the Penguins. So all's well for the Bruins. I mean, they
absolutely no complaints.
Maybe
minus that.
Maybe Tomas Nosek will score his first goal in like 9 months this week.
Oh God.
We'll see if Brad Marchand's in the mix by next week. Maybe, since he's ruled out the next 2 games, the Penguins game isn't out of the question.
Gonna say, is that Pittsburgh game maybe the barometer for where he makes the season debut?
Yeah, I mean,
be a good game to do so. 2 very good teams going at it. So
yeah,
it would make some sense.
He's ruled out these games, and he's kind of seems like it's more and more of a game by game basis with every day now. It's gonna be just
process of elimination.
The buzz around that started today, but yeah, and 2 guys I'm looking for more out of this week as well: Charlie Coyle and Craig Smith. The third line just really hasn't been generating a lot of offense.
Coyle's kind of cooled off. Like what I said at the start of the year, I have no faith in Smith whatsoever. Like you would have thought the 2-game benching would kind of wake him up a little bit. He had a couple of shots in that Minnesota game from what I saw, but like a couple of chances. Other than that, like the guy is what he is. Like he's not going to be a world beater or anything like that. Like he's not going to put up a ton of points, at least in my opinion. Because I think the fall off, we saw that last year, and it's just I don't think there's really a ton of ability there anymore.
Yeah. We didn't even mention last night, Connor Clifton is a maniac.
It's the fight he had.
You see the game last night?
I did. I had to work. I only saw the fight on Twitter. He destroyed whoever. Yeah.
He buried him good. Taylor Hall buried Cam Fowler pretty good. Kind of like similar hits, like loud hits, and one's like you see the guys and like down on the ice, you're like, wow, is that a dirty hit? But just 2 really good hard hits. Like they're picking their spots physically. I really, really, really like what I'm seeing from the Bruins, especially.
They're firing on all cylinders right now. Like everything you could ask them.
Not having to worry about depth scoring. Like
absolutely, that's still my biggest takeaway this year is you're getting scoring up and down the lineup. Like it's not just Pastrnak and right now Pastrnak and Bergeron would be because Marchand's obviously not playing, but
you got Hampus and Hampus is putting up points. Grizzly, Clifton had a hot start offensively. He's kind of cooled off. Like they're getting real legitimate contributions, and on the goaltending side of things to kind of round out our discussion here, I have faith that Jeremy Swayman is going to figure it out too. So that's just going to make things even better.
Yeah, you hope he can feed off of, obviously Ullmark's performances and just kind of take that with them and go. Because, I feel like you have to assume, you said Ullmark's played in the last 3 games, so you got to assume that Swayman's going to get a go, obviously in one of these back-to-back games, and then maybe against the Pittsburgh game just because Ullmark's played so much. But again, if they go with Ullmark in that game, I'm not going to complain. But maybe you see a little bit more of a balancing out with the goalie tandem and Swayman starts to pick it up a little bit because if that happens too, it's just a luxury at this point to have both your goalies playing incredibly well and your team just dominating on every facet of the game, minus the power play. Like that's again the one knock is that. But like you said, you're going to expect that to get better when Marchand and McAvoy get back. So I'm not too concerned about that either.
Yeah, people talk about what they want for Christmas. All I want for Christmas is this. All I want for Halloween is David Pastrnak signed to an 8-year extension. How about that?
That wouldn't be the worst thing. Yep. I'd take that absolutely.
Because you're just gonna have to pay more and more if you don't.
That's what I mean. Though, playing the waiting game is not gonna help them in any matters whatsoever. Like he is playing like a guy in a contract year, and he absolutely deserves it right now. Like he is not carrying the team because they played so well, but he is one of the leaders in the clubhouse right now. The way he's been going.
Yeah, he's just playing out of his mind. And then that's gonna wrap it up for episode 117. What do you think?
I think so. I hope, the Bruins can continue to be on a roll and the Patriots can come back and my guy, Mac Jones can, put any doubt or, take any doubts out of anybody's mind that he is not the guy and, should not be the guy moving forward.
Yeah, he's fringe guy right now.
Oh, I hate that. I don't like that.
We'll see.
Remember all the good things he did last year, people. This is not some schlup that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yep, it's true. That's gonna wrap it up for episode 117. Thank you for listening. You can find us wherever you find your podcasts. Find us on Twitch and YouTube, Full Press coverage pages. You can find us, on the Full Press Radio Network, Twitter too, if you're a Twitter guy or gal. You can rate and review on Spotify and Apple. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike_Cratty. You can follow Ryan at Ryan_Salvaggio. speaking of TikTok, you can follow us there. We posted about the reverse retros, which you didn't even mention. The Pooh Bear is back.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. I will not be purchasing one because I know I will stain it. And I just got a Bruins jersey for graduation a few years ago.
When do they plan on wearing that? I thought they would have worn it the night after, or the game after they announced it.
I think it's November 6th or 7th, I think is the first game.
Okay.
So we'll see that. Stay tuned for that. For the Bruins, if you're a Pooh Bear fan or not, deal with it because they're wearing them and they're glorious. Can't wait. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people, all that good stuff. And we will talk to you next week. Peace out.